Hello, dear friends. This is Kardec Radio at 11 p.m. Here we are again, and this is chapter 35 of the book Harvest of Light, authored by Emmanuel through Chico Xavier. We get to know of unprecedented messages, right, friends? And this message in particular is like the highlight of the book, I think, because it goes straight to what means the most to us. What is Spiritism for you? The reason why we're here is because of Spiritism. There's no other reason. It brought us together. It converged our interests, and that's why we're here. But what is it for? What difference does it make? In this message, the Spirit Emmanuel is going to share with us what it really means to us. And if you have any doubt, let us read it time and again. This message was translated first and foremost for the first International Spiritist Youth Weekend. It was the tone of the whole event. And it may be the tone for our lives. Shall we, friends? I see wonderful friends here with us. What a joy. John the Rose, the eternal friend, is here. Valéria Benfica is here. What a joy. Rihanna. How are you, Rihanna? Rihanna, whenever I see you doing the daily programs in the African language of the Living Spring book by Emmanuel, I pray that you keep on going always. I share with you, Rihanna, and with all the friends. Mentor Joseph always reminds us we are not only working for the current times, but we are setting the grounds for the future generations. The materials we are putting together today will serve to other generations. Believe me. I believe in what he says because it makes sense. So, we cannot stop. Sometimes people nowadays are not paying attention. It doesn't matter. It's not personal to us. But we are helping, bringing, setting the grounds for the generations to come. So let us keep on doing. I see here Daisy, our dear Daisy. I see here, congratulations, Daisy, beautiful job. We saw also here Paula, our dear Paula, who is with us as well. Dona Verducci, how are you? Sol Souza. Edson Coutinho, how are you? João Bosco, Andréa Torres, Angelita, right? It's hard to hear. I don't know what's going on, but I will try my best. Dona Verducci. Adilson, how are you? Exactly, João Bosco. I hope that your daughter, our daughters, will have an easier time. So let us do our best. Shall we? This message, Under the Sun of the Truth. I still have the printout of the first International Spiritist Youth Weekend. Here it is. Emmanuel, chapter 35, in the book Ceifa de Luz, Harvest of Light. Are you ready? He quotes Jesus as written in John, chapter 16, verse 13. But when that Spirit of truth comes, it will guide you into all truth. Emmanuel then, in few paragraphs, explains to us, in what way will Spiritism overcome the obstacles that become magnified ahead? Their companions who ask, shall we dispute a political position or monopolize the terrestrial fortune? Meanwhile, others emphasize the illusory necessity of verbal warfare to congregations or hope or people. Hello, Giovanna and Teresa Castro. Friends, I am gonna keep trying my best. I don't know why you can't hear well, but let me keep trying, okay? On the subject, however, we transcribed question 799 of the Spirit's book. Clearly and prudently, Kardec formulated the following question to the Spirit mentors of his work. In what way can Spiritism contribute to progress? And within their usual logic, they answered, by destroying materialism. One of the sources of society, it enables people to understand where their true interest lies. Since the future life is no longer veiled by doubt, men and women will better understand that they can ensure their future based on the present. Destroying the prejudices of sect, caste, color, Spiritism teaches them about the great solidarity that must unite them as brothers and sisters. Let us not be deceived regarding our tasks. We're all called by the blessings of the Christ to enlighten the world of consciences, starting from ourselves, while dissipating the darkness of materialism to the blaze of the truth, not by the spirit of force, but by the force of the Spirit, to express itself in service, fraternity, understanding, and education. Well, it seems simple, not quite. He's telling about Jesus in his promise, as quoted in John chapter 16, verse 13. When Jesus said that he would send the promised consoler, that would stay with us until the end of times, that would help us, and that would bring us all truth. But let's ask ourselves, who likes the truth? Because the truth hurts. It's not easy. It's not easy. So, our question here is, how open are we to receive the truth? I think before we go on into discussing these messages, are we ready to handle the truth? Yes. Thank you, friends, for your feedback, Giovanna and Adilson, and thank you also, Teresa Castro. Dulce is with us. So, he's asking here, straightforward, he connects the spirit of truth with Spiritism. Does that mean that those who don't know Spiritism don't know the truth? No. Because the ideas that are composed in Spiritism, they are universal. They are in different walks of life, philosophies, religions, but Spiritism, as Kardec says, compiles it in a most special way. Gives us a framework that becomes unique. We no longer need to be creating our quilt of belief. Do you need a quilt of belief? Mix and matches with Spiritism. You no longer need it. You can already find it straight there. and we appreciate it all. But we no longer need to shop around for truth. It's already here. Oh, it is. And that's why he says it's not easy. Because Spiritism brings the truth, and he begins the interpretation by bringing to us. In what way will Spiritism overcome the obstacles that become magnified? And it does, because we have obstacles within and outside the Spiritist movement. Outside, because people don't know yet about it. They may resist. And inside, because there are people who are using Spiritism as means for their own egotistic achievement. And that's dangerous. You can dedicate yourself to disseminating it, to sharing the knowledge, to practicing it. But I cannot stop working. Ideally, I need to work professionally and do the Spiritist work. And you may be asking, but Vanessa, what about people who retire? That's okay. But dedicating ourselves to Spiritism alone, and thinking about it the whole day as if it were a profession, where I create a curriculum, a profile of experience, and then I compete with people. It doesn't make any sense. Look at Paul and Stephen. Peter, the apostle, he knew Jesus. Jesus slept in his house, etc., etc. Jesus was crucified. Peter resumed his life around it, created the house of the way, helped so many people. The day Stephen entered the house of the way, Peter opened himself to Stephen and didn't tell him, "Who are you? You have to be seated on the bench and wait," because you didn't meet Jesus. I did. No. Peter gave way to Stephen and later gave way to Paul, who was once a persecutor. Teaching us that in spirituality, there's no curriculum. I came first, I came second, I have written 10,000 books, I didn't write any book, or if you have experience, that's wonderful, but that doesn't make us more than somebody who is starting now. And that's one of the obstacles. That's one of the major obstacles he's saying here. He's saying, destroying prejudices. Spiritism will help us destroy prejudices like this. For example, you traveled to another country. I've heard people saying, but we're not going to start speaking Spiritism in English because we came here first. And I said, well, but you as a Brazilian, you came to the United States to share Spiritism in English. I doubt if Christ wanted you to be in the United States to share Spiritism in Portuguese. I'm sorry, but that's not radical, it's just not coherent. Unless you are in your house, but not in the public. Right? So he's saying the obstacles are many, but the prejudices, the ego, the differences, the discrimination we make is what create the obstacles. And he says there are people who think Spiritism is going to be at another level when we hang out with politicians. And I know people who used to say, Vanessa, send the magazine to President Obama. Send the Spirit's book to Oprah. And I say, you know, I don't think that's Jesus' plan. I mean, you can send them, that's okay, but I don't think Jesus is waiting for them to embrace Spiritism so we can share Spiritism. If they know it, good for them. But you know, between them and us, it's our part. And Jesus didn't come. And you see, after 2,000 years, we're still thinking like Judas. That people will understand Spiritism if there's money involved, if we have big things, and if we're friends with people who are influential. That's Judas' thought, and it failed big time. We can no longer afford it. Valéria Benfica is saying, after all, for there is no partiality with God. Exactly. Thank you, Valéria, for sharing this. So we no longer need it. When I see too much of this, politicians, and I'm like, something is off. Because when the world, in the current day and age, is applauding too much, it's a sign we're not disseminating Spiritism as much. Okay? Because if we are, people won't applaud us that much. Because we're talking about changes that are in the foundation of our lives. Not everybody's ready for it. And he says to us, quoting question and answer 799 of the Spirit's book by Allan Kardec, in what way can Spiritism contribute to progress? By destroying materialism. And that's materialism. When we think that if somebody is in a position X, they are entitled to more, Mamma mia, we're going to crucify Jesus again. Because Jesus didn't have any title. This night, our dear Daisy was giving a talk at the Spirit Side of Virginia on a chapter in the book Jesus in the Home by the Spirit Neo Lúcio through Chico Xavier. It's titled The Messenger of Love, when Jesus was telling us that God, worried about the status of the earth, sent several messengers of knowledge. They were not able to fulfill it. It was only when God sent the messenger of love with no titles, no influence, no social economic influence, we'll say this way. That's when things changed. It's love. Love, as Jesus said, is above it all. But what kind of love we're talking about? Simplicity. This message is titled Under the Sun of the Truth. Under the sun of the truth. The sun is magnanimous, but as simple as our daily life. Magnanimous, majestic, and simple. It shines. There's no complication. It's uncomplicated. The message today is asking us to uncomplicate our lives. You are being asked to be this beacon of light where you are. Don't wait for external factors, for other people's approval. When we do the right, we really sacrifice our immediate needs. I think Nike is right. We just do it. Jesus came and just did it. Chico Xavier came, just did it. Divaldo Franco has been just doing it. And people saying, stay home, don't go anywhere. And he's like, what am I going to do? I better travel, be on a wheelchair, giving talks on a chair, than staying home and doing nothing. Adilson is saying, I personally always question why people give so much value to identify themselves as second or third generation being spiritists, but then when we talk about forgiveness and basic principles, okay, hold on. Okay. Basic principles to get along with one another, we find ourselves in the kindergarten, just labels. Okay, you're right. Okay, I'm trying to read. Only our hearts transformed through inner transformation will bring us peace and harmony. You know, Adilson, I'll share this with you. I remember when we started doing the works in English, people started asking, oh, how long have you been a spiritist? And I say, you know, I've been spiritist my whole life. And I come from several generations of spiritists in my life. In my case, 5th generation of spiritist. And I think it serves a purpose just to give people, but you know, in different contexts. But I don't think that brings us to a curriculum of morality. I agree with you. That doesn't make me any better. No. Because my great-great-grandfather was a spiritist, it doesn't make me better. Because my grandmother, because my great-grandfather, great-grandmother, my mother, that doesn't make me a better person. I agree with you. If that much of experience does not make me different, what's the purpose? Right, Adilson? I agree with you. Andrea Ferreira is saying, the illuminated spirit teaches me to be patient and avoid all evil. Exactly. Patricia Guiri is with us. Thank you, Patricia. So, for sure, we're being asked to uncomplicate our lives. This message is saying, by destroying materialism, it will enable us to focus on our true interest, as Adilson is saying. What's the purpose of labeling myself? I have been a spiritist for 10,000 generations, etc. If that doesn't change me, if that doesn't make me listen to people, pray for them, forgive and forget, and begin anew. Because it's so normal that we'll have our differences and we'll not feel one. But then we pray, we adjust ourselves, say, you know what? Another day, another day. And then we begin anew. We uncomplicate our lives by letting go of the grudges. And we can do this daily exercise. Emmanuel recommended Chico Xavier to wake up at sunrise or a little before sunrise to look at the sun every morning and say a prayer. And in that prayer, we can ask God to shed the light so we can uncomplicate this life of ours. And let go of the grudges, the resentments, the old, so we can let in the new. Right? And it says to us, by seeing the future life, we'll understand what is important in the present life. We were talking about it today at the Spirit Side of Virginia. We focus so much on paying the bills, buying the house, buying the car, getting the degree, getting married, etc. And we forget that in the spiritual plan that we have for this life, paying the bills not necessarily was a milestone. But learning to love and approve of ourselves in spite of it all. To love one another in spite of it all as a way to worship God is a major milestone. And he says to us, let us not be deceived regarding our tasks. How much have we received, friends? Isn't about time that we give of ourselves? Constantly, consistently. We're all called by the blessings of the Christ to enlighten the world of consciousness. Did you hear Emmanuel saying that? We're all called by the blessings of the Christ to enlighten the world of consciences, starting from ourselves. Dissipating the darkness of materialism. You know what materialism is all about? It's like race, caste, sect. It's about when I think that my family is more important than other families. No, Emmanuel says in a book that is yet to be translated, roteiro, script, or route, I don't know how it's going to be translated. He says to us, the earth is our temporary home. And the universal family is our true family. So we need to dedicate ourselves more to one another. And he says, but we won't change it with violence. Not by the spirit of force, but by the force of the Spirit. By the force of love. Because we spirits are made of love. To express it in service, fraternity, understanding, and education. Education is vital. The education of the Spirit. So here, friends, is a call to you. Can we give more of ourselves? Is it possible? Right? You're right, Dulce. It's more than words. It's about actions. Actions speak louder than any word. I agree with you. Raquel Villiers is here with us. Valéria Sordi, Felipe Geno. It's good to have you all here. And friends, do you feel the call? Under the sun of the truth. Let us not be deceived regarding our tasks, says Emmanuel. We're all being called by the blessings of the Christ to enlighten the world of consciousness. And he says we need to study to interpret our lives more wisely. Study so we're not eluded and we take decisions based on clear facts and not illusions. Service, fraternity, understanding, and education. I think for us the exercise in the next 24 hours is first and foremost to untie the knots of complications, to be simpler, and to do this exercise before the sun, to ask to untie these knots so we can co-create at greater levels and allow God to flow through us with less resistances. Shall we, friends? Yes? That's the message today. Emmanuel is telling us under the sun of the truth. You and I being invited by the blessings of the Christ to enlighten the world of consciousness through service, fraternity, understanding, and education. Make no mistake, you're needed. You are needed in this world. And count on us to support your loving works on the earth For now, friends, I'll give you a super hug and a kiss, and let us dream of this blossoming of the Sun of the Truth through us, through the world. Many blessings, and until tomorrow, God willing.